I was 2 years old, and I was told, you're going to have a little baby brother, and his name's going to be Joseph. And I thought, wow, I could hardly wait, you know. And so finally, on the night she was born, the next morning, my dad brought me in the hallway, and their bedroom had a door that was, the top part was screened so that the air could go in the bedroom, and then the bottom part was solid. He pulled a chair up there, and he said, there's your baby. And I said, my baby brother. And he said, no, I don't. I said, Joseph, and he said, no, I don't think that's a Joseph. I think that's a Josie. She was a beautiful baby. I kind of teased her when we were at house. I said, yeah, you come along and threw me out of my crib and I had to go sleep on God.
Aww.
Oh, no, that's okay, because we lived in an old house, which, you know, you have the hallway going all the way the length of the house, and they had an old crib that was an iron crib, and it had all the cracked paint on it. And I told people, it's not true that lead will kill you, because I chewed on that.
And you're still here.
So then it was her turn to go into the crib, and I got to sleep in our parents' room on the cot. But my mother would push. I mean, she was a very happy baby, always, you know, real happy. And my mother would pick her up and put her on the floor on the pallet, because in Key West that you put the babies in front of the screen door so they could get the air. And I thought this would be funny. Her first word was ice. That's the first thing she ever said. Because when the ice man would come and deliver our ice, he would throw our block of ice up on the porch and he'd say, ice!
Oh.
So she started going around, tiny little thing, saying, ice! But we were both born in the same house.
Broad Street.
Yeah, but the house is not there anymore.
So you were born in the house?
Yeah.
Okay. And who delivered you?
No, oh yes.
Miss Lacedonia.
The only person that was delivered in a hospital, and I'm going to say what I always call her, okay? Rosemary.
Okay.
Because I know why she was named that. My Aunt Anna came to the birth, and I loved and adored my Aunt Anna. And she was reading a novel. She loved romantic novels, and she was reading this novel, and the girl was named Rosemary. And so my family was discussing what to name the baby, and my Aunt Anna said, if it's a girl, it's got to be Rosemary. But what happened was my father went to put her name, you know, register her, and of course the person that was behind the counter was Cuban, and so he's talking to this guy in Cuban, and he's, what are you naming the baby? Rosa Maria, which is Rosemary in Spanish. So, but I never could call her Rosa Maria. I always called her Rosemary.
It's on her birth certificate.
Rosa Maria.
Maria.
Yeah. But,
Rosa Maria Bello.
Yeah, that was another thing, and I never could understand it. I've gone from one family member to the other, like my uncles, and asked them, why is, everybody else Bello? Because my youngest uncle, he changed his kids' names to Bello. My dad didn't change ours. But Rosemary, when Rosemary was born, he was going by Bello. He only changed his name to Bello when he went in the Navy, and evidently there was some big mix-up in the Navy because they didn't understand the Spanish D. Bello and Garcia D. Bello. So they told him and my youngest uncle, you guys aren't named Garcia, you're named Bello. My grandfather, he called himself Jose Garcia sometimes. He called himself Jose Bello sometimes. So it's kind of confusing. My oldest uncle refused to change his name. He said, I don't care what they do. They can do what they both of them want to do. That's fine. But he says, "As for me, I'm a Garcia," and he always stayed a Garcia. But
Well, was Papa Avelio? Was he Avelio?
Evelio.
yes, and
Evelio.
I was looking at a paper today where he signed it Joseph Evelio. He didn't. Usually people sound it with an E. I know he signed it with an E a lot of times, and his family all call him Evelio. But it's kind of a confusing thing because I mean, you know, half the brothers were Bellows and half the cousins were Bellows, and then me and Theo Baby's kids were Garcias. But my oldest uncle was very, very unhappy about the name change, and he let me know right.
What was his name? What was his name?
His name was Candido. I can't remember his middle name, but his first name was Candido. But he went by Baby, and you know, and not B-A-B-Y, but B-E-B, I guess is how you would, you know.
Oh, okay.
spell it. Yeah, and he was the oldest son, and he had 2 girls and a boy. There's a lot of stories here. But anyhow, I want to get back to our family because, I mean, Joe and I, we had a very, very interesting childhood. I mean, I love it, and there's
Typically tried to throw me down the cistern.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna have to hear the
Joe?
story.
Tell her about the cistern story. Tell her about this when you told me to look down in the cistern, and I almost went in.
Oh yeah, well, I used to have her do a lot of things.
She's admitting it, Hal.
Look at her, she's looking
I
at
used to have her do things. Yeah, well, we were listening to the grown-ups talk, okay? And I heard that the cisterns in Key West, during a certain time, a certain day or whatever, if you looked inside of them, you would see roses floating in them, flowers floating in them. So I got out there, and she was following me, and it was a type of cistern where it's built up, you know, and then it's got like a little house on it with a roof, and it's got a door that you open up and, you know, reach in to get water out of the cistern. I opened that door, and I tried to get her, you know, to not do it, but she was going to insist that she look in there and see if there was any flowers. So she climbed up, and she had her, you know, her arms on the cell, I guess, sill, and she was looking, you know, she tried to, but she couldn't see it, so she threw herself like that, and let me tell you, she went headfirst into that cistern, and I grabbed the very tip of her hem and yanked her back up. I thought, oh Lord, you know, I was scared to death. But I used to do things to her like when we moved to Watson Street, our dining room kitchen had a linoleum that looked like it had like little ripply waves in it. And so one day I told her, we're going to go to the beach. And she said, she was all thrilled, and she said, yeah. She said, okay. I said, you want to go? Yeah. I said, okay. So we went out in the dining room, and I said, lay down on your belly. And she said, what? I said, lay down on your belly. We're going to swim. I laid down on my belly. And so I said, okay, now let's swim. And I told her, swim, the shark's after you. She said,
That's the first time I heard this one.
Yeah. I thought about that the other night when I was trying to think of things that, you know, you and I had done it when we were little. We used to do all kinds of things like that. We actually were not allowed to go out of our yard. And not everybody was allowed to come in our yard. We would do things. Do you remember how we would cook black beans? You remember how we did that?
I don't remember how, but I remember.
Huh?
I remember something about it, but I don't remember. You probably
we would
remember
go
better.
out and we would decide we were going to have dinner, and so I'd go pick up one of those hibiscus leaves, and we place them around like they were, you know, like they were plates. We'd go to the 4 o'clock plant and take all the seeds out of 4 o'clock plant because they're
4
black.
o'clock plant? What is that?
4 o'clock. It's a bush.
It's just
Oh,
a
I
bush.
never heard of it.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock. You know why? When it comes 4 o'clock, they close up.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And so anyway, we would take those 4 o'clock seeds and we would put them on there. We'd pretend they were black beans, and we would get little gravels and put them on there and say that's our rice. But I want you to tell her about our benches under the house.
Oh, she used to scare me to death. She'd tell me there was spirits and everything else under the house. And then make me throw things under the house that I wanted and make me go get them.
Well, you know what? The house was up. It's not like it was now. It was up. It was up quite a few, high enough that we could play under
yeah.
it. We could play under it. And it was always scorpions under there. And we would go under there. And we would take sticks and we would torment the scorpions.
I don't remember that.
And we actually, actually it was cool under the house. You know,
she took care of me. She was, yeah. I mean, I had really huge earaches, and Daddy'd get mad if I cried during the night because he had to get up and go to work. And she used to lay there with a pillow on my side of my face so he couldn't hear me cry. And put olive oil in my ear with cotton. So.
Well, she would put, Aunt Mabel did worse than that.
Yeah.
She'd fry onions in the olive.
Fry onions in the what?
Olive oil and drop it in your ear.
And
I had bad. It's no wonder I can hear because I had horrible earaches
maybe that's why I can't.
and tonsillitis.
Yeah.
What did they do for tonsillitis?
I took them out
At the hospital.
at the hospital. Oh yeah.
No, but you know that under the house is when I had my first cigarette
Oh.
and my last cigarette.
I can't imagine when you say under the house, because in Key West, how much of a under the house was there?
Well, there's not. Oh, it was high. It was high. That house on Watson Street, it was high up off the ground.
Yeah.
So you could you
Go
couldn't
under.
stand.
And you know what?
You could stand under it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were
It
little.
really worked for hurricanes too, because if the water came up, it never came up much higher than that on the island. But they had that high enough so they knew how high that water would rise.
Yeah.
And they kept that house up there. They did that for 2 reasons. Another reason was ventilation, to keep the house cooled off. So they were smart about it, but now these people that are sitting them on the ground, they're going to be sorry someday, especially when a hurricane comes along. But anyway, she and I were into the house, and this beautiful woman called, she was Mary Parker, but her maiden name was Griffin. She was my Aunt Hannah, my grandmother's sister's daughter. And she come in there and she was smoking cigarettes. Nobody in our house smoked cigarettes. My dad chewed cigars, but he didn't light them up in the house. But anyway, she came in the house and my grandma, yelled at her, "Get rid of that cigarette." And she threw it out the window because the windows were left open. We didn't have no screens. We had the blinds that we shut if we wanted privacy or it was raining or something. And she threw that cigarette out. And I crawled over there and got it. And Joe said, "Oh, you're gonna get burned. You're gonna get burned." I said, "No, Mary Parker just does it like this." And I took that. I was like 6 years old.
Oh my God.
I was 4.
I took a big draw on that cigarette, and I thought I was going to die. And I have never wanted to try another one. It really cured me. But anyhow, when she almost fell in a cistern, we were living in Knowles Lane.
Yeah.
Do you remember how we did when we played it on the porch and all that?
I remember being there, and I remember being on the cistern. I remember playing on the
The
porch.
windows were low down. I mean, they were almost to the floor, the porch. We crawled in and out. The door was right there, but we felt we needed to crawl in and out the windows.
Yeah.
I was trying to, really think. It was Knowles Lane, and then we went to.
I remember being in Watson Street, and then I remember being in Knowles Lane, and the next thing I remember, we were living with Aunt Mabel on White Street.
Yeah. Well, we were living before Knowsley. Of course, we were living in that house, we were
Yeah.
born in. Then we moved to White Street.
Yeah, where the Gulf Stream is now.
And it was very interesting because they were what they call cigar cottages. It's what the cigar factory built to put their workers in, little cottages, And ours there was one on the end which they turned into a butcher shop during the war. And then we were next. And I forget, I was looking at that picture of you holding that meat. I don't know how many more little cottages it was down to the end of the block. But anyway,
Airplane or a lawnmower, they board the carpet.
yeah, that's the house that Dolores was born in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on White Street, and we lived there. Somewhere in the back of my mind, just about somewhere around that time when my dad moved to Tampa.
See, I don't remember living in Tampa at all.
You don't remember?
The only thing I remember when we were in Tampa was they took you up there because of your mouth, and they were trying to see what they could do with your
No,
teeth.
I fell on the stuff.
Yeah, what? But anyway, I remember being there, and I remember being in a hotel, and we were way up high, and there was like a balcony, just with a wrought iron thing, like those little Julienne balconies or whatever you call them there. And I remember sitting on there, and they wouldn't let us stand up. We had to sit on them and look out through the rail because they were scared we'd fall over.
Yeah.
But we'd just come back from the doctor with Jane, and we were walking by, and it was like a 5 and dime store, and there was a buggy and a doll in it. And I wanted that doll, and I pitched a fit right on the sidewalk, and my daddy picked me up and busted my behind.
He did?
Yeah. I remember that. He told me about that. He said, I had never seen you throw a fit before in your life, but I was going to make sure you didn't throw another one.
That's like, how old were you then?
I don't know.
I was
4, 6.
I was probably, no, let's see. You were 2 on White Street, and I was 4. So you were probably 3, and I was 5. We didn't stay there very long because my grandma had my grandpa come to Tampa, and while my dad was at work, take us down and put us on a train and take us back downtown. When we went back down there, she had moved to a house on Potter Street.